Alright, welcome back to TEW 2020, the brand split from day one. This is Monday Night Raw, week 2 of August, so we have this show, SmackDown, then the next week of shows, and then it is SummerSlam already. So, I forgot to make this announcement on the last SmackDown, but I'll do it right here. I do not have a schedule at all, alright? All I know is that Royal Rumble will be in January, WrestleMania will be in March, SummerSlam will be in August, Survivor Series will be in November. So, I got to thinking, well, I should probably do cross-branded events again. This roster, even though it is not as stacked as it is in 2020, there are a lot of guys I want to push, so it'd be really beneficial for me to have brand exclusive pay-per-views. So then I started thinking, well, what should I choose? Not a fucking clue. I had no clue. So that's where you guys are going to come in. In the comments, there are 2 things, if you want to participate, 2 things that you have to do. 1, tell me if you want Money in the Bank to be on WrestleMania or if you want it to be its own pay-per-view in June. And 2, tell me any pay-per-views that you guys want to see me bring back or stay on the roster. You know, if you're a huge Battleground fan, tell me that, so I'll keep it in the schedule. If you want to see anything come back, tell me, and I might put it in the schedule. So if you guys are a fan of Cyber Sunday, put it in the schedule. If you guys are a fan of old WCW events, put them in the schedule. You can name any former or current WWE events, you can name any former ECW events, and you can name any former WCW events. No ROH names, no AEW names. Those are the only restrictions. If you want to see some pay-per-views come back, tell me in the comments, and I'll start crafting this schedule. That is all I have to say before we get into this episode of Raw. We, of course, have the final triple threat to see who will take on Seth Rollins at SummerSlam, and that's really all I have booked for this episode of Raw, so let's get into it. To open this edition of Monday Night Raw, it is Stephanie and all 3 wrestlers in her new kind of crew thing that she isn't calling the Authority. Stephanie has a microphone and starts cutting a promo. She says, "Last week, you all saw the power right before you on full display. The beginnings of this group may have been rocky, however, we have clearly overcome our issues. Seth Rollins may have been reluctant to comply with his new teammates, but that is all over now. Seth Rollins is willing to die for this group. Seth Rollins is willing to..." And then Seth Rollins kind of tells Steph to stop talking and lays his hand out for the microphone. He takes the mic, and before Seth can say anything, Cesaro's music cuts them off. Cesaro comes out, and he tells the group that he knows the odds are stacked against him. He knows that they're going to go full force with this little trio or quartet. Quartet, is that what 4 people in a group is called? I guess it's a stable at that point. Or 3... whatever. He knows that they're going to be using all the underhanded and scummy tactics against him, but he says that no matter what they throw at him, he will end out on top and be the man to take on Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. 86 for this segment. Pretty good. Rollins did a masterful job even though he didn't say a fucking word. Following that is this little minute-long video of Adrian Neville, and he's just saying that, you know, he might have lost his triple threat match, but he is still the future, and he will be showcased next. So we go to commercial, and when we come back, it is Alberto Del Rio taking on Neville, and both men got 70s. Neville was off his game. I think the match got penalized for lack of storyline, so there we go. Kind of a little bit of time filler, but also to get Neville some more momentum, you know. Following that, the duo of Bobby Roode and Austin Aries enter to the ring. And I didn't write out a promo, so I'm going to keep it brief. They're like, we're a team now. They're basically saying that they're a team now. They're here to take over the tag team division. The Usos can't stop them. Nobody can stop the Glorious Ones. And Enzo and Cass come out. Enzo starts cutting his typical Enzo promo saying, you couldn't beat two blind deaf people, how you doing, or whatever the fuck. And Enzo and Cass challenge them since they think they're going to take over the tag team division. Why don't they take over one of the top teams on Monday Night Raw? And they do just that. Austin Aries submitted Enzo Amore after 10.5 minutes after he hit the last chancery. He hit the last chancery. He tapped him out with the last chancery. Dude, my brain is on like slow pills. I don't know fucking why. So they blatantly cheat, so it's not a clean win, and they managed to tap out Enzo Amore. After that underhanded win against Enzo and Cass, the Glorious Ones are then confronted by their rivals, the Usos. The Brothers Uso, that's not too bad. The Brothers Uso cut a promo saying that this duo is destined to fail. Jay and Jimmy, they're connected by blood, so even through the very rough patches, they'll always come back together. However, Aries and Roode, they're both snakes, and it's only a matter of time until one of them throws the other under the bus. The Glorious Ones are originally pissed off at these words. Usos walk back up the ramp, but the segment really ends with Aries and Roode kind of giving each other the dirty eye, like, I don't really trust this guy, do I? 71 for that. Following that, we saw that whole thing. Heath Slater was watching it on a TV. He's cheered on his boys, the Usos, but Stephanie McMahon comes up and he says, she says, Heath, I get that you're good friends with the Usos and all, but you don't have a contract on Raw, okay? So either earn your contract on this roster or get out of my show. Heath's like, oh, fuck. So Heath now has to find a way to earn his spot. We then fade back to the ring where the Miz and Maurice are standing in the ring. Miz makes some offhanded comment about how Darren Young's knee isn't working. And he says, you know what we're going to have right now? I need a challenger for SummerSlam. I missed Battleground. There's no way Shane's going to let me wrestle SummerSlam not in a title match. So why not do it on my terms? Right now, we're going to have a 13-man battle royal to determine the new number one contender for my championship. 13 is my lucky number, so we'll just send them all out here. And it's mainly goobers, and then you have Sheamus, Hideo Itami, Golden, Dustin Rhodes, and R-Truth. And the match is about to begin when Bob Backlund shows up on the ramp and says, no. Shane McMahon is letting me turn this 13-man battle royal into a 14-man. Miz is confused as to who Bob Backlund has because there's no way Darren Young's gonna wrestle. But it is Darren Young. He comes out in a cast of some sorts on his knee, and he wrestles in this match. So it is a 14-man battle royal. However, I put Xavier Woods in the match. He's not supposed to be here because the game won't let me do 14-man battle royals. I was going to do a 15, but I didn't really have a 15th guy, so I just put Woods in here. Just ignore that he's there, okay? So the match is going smoothly. You know, people like Aiden English and his partner Simon Gotch are trying to team up. Connor and Victor are trying to team up. Strowman and Rowan are trying to team up. They're all in pairs, right? But the numbers game doesn't really work when there's other people doing the same numbers game. So anyone in a team is really the ones thrown out first because they're all going after each other. So once all those guys are out, then you get the guys like Jack Swagger, Sin Cara, Mark Henry, all the guys that don't really have a storyline come out next. So then what happens is Sheamus I think he eliminates somebody. Let's say he eliminates Swagger, and Swagger's like the last guy without a storyline. And then Sheamus turns around right into a heel kick from Hideo Itami. The kick throws Sheamus over the top rope, and now we are down to 4. Golden Dustin Rhodes, Hideo Itami, R-Truth, and surprisingly, Darren Young, who has probably gotten elimination by now. Let's say he eliminated Sin Cara. So, Miz is on commentary, and he is just burying Darren Young. He's like, there's no way he's going to do it, all right? It's called luck. He's playing possum, right? So, what ends up happening is R-Truth takes out Golden Dustin Rhodes. He throws him over with a clothesline, but Golden Dustin Rhodes kind of grabs onto R-Truth's arm, and both of them fly out. Hideo Itami and Darren Young are the last two left in the ring. Hideo Itami's about to hit the GTS when Sheamus runs back in, hits Hideo Itami with the bro kick, and Darren Young throws over Hideo Itami. Against all odds, Darren Young has won this Battle Royal. Right here, yes, Final Four, Truth, Hideo, Golden Dustin Rhodes. R-Truth was the final elimination. That changed. I guess I made him the final elimination when I booked it, but I changed that. But Golden Dustin Rhodes did get the most eliminations. That can stay the same. So that's how we end that storyline. I couldn't remember if there was an angle next or not. But following that, this is why I said I didn't want Xavier Woods to be in that match, because it is all three members of the New Day in their locker room. Xavier Woods is like, dude, I don't know if I can accept this challenge, man. It's just something about Bray Wyatt scares everything out of me. And Big E and Kofi, although they have had a little bit of a rough patch recently, it's water under the bridge at this point. Big E and Kofi are supportive of their boy Xavier Woods. They're like, we got you, man. Don't worry. We'll back you up. So he doesn't officially accept the challenge, but it's looking like he will. We have Chris Jericho, Seth Rollins, and Stephanie McMahon all in like a huddle backstage. And Stephanie's just running over the plans, how Seth Rollins and Big Show are going to take out Chris Jericho. Big Show's in the bathroom right now, so Stephanie's just, talking without him. So Shane comes up and he says, no, we're not doing this. I am co-GM. I know what you're going to plan, and I'm a huge fan of Cesaro, but more importantly, I'm a huge fan of fairness. So in the right of fairness, I have some security guards behind me, all played by No Way Jose, Shane Thorne, Nick Miller, and Elias Sampson. And what they are going to do is they are going to escort you from the building. Stephanie, shocked that Shane can do this, but he can. He can with permission of Vince McMahon, and guess what he had? He had permission of Vince McMahon. So Seth Rollins and Stephanie McMahon are escorted from the building, but it looks like Shane forgot about the other half of Jericho. Following that, the return of, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman, and after a decisive win in the world of UFC, please welcome my client, Brock Lesnar. So Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman return, and I'm going to cut right to the chase. This is the segment where Brock Lesnar tells Heath Slater that he does not give a shit about his kids. One of the greatest segments of this year in WWE, and I just cannot do it justice. So just watch that clip again. That's what happens in this segment, except before Heath Slater comes out in our segment, Paul Heyman announces that Brock Lesnar has signed an exclusive deal with Monday Night Raw, and he will be an official member of this show. So what was supposed to happen after this was Brock Lesnar was going to have a 1-minute match against Heath Slater where he just kicked his ass, but for whatever reason, and I understand that Brock Lesnar rarely ever wrestles on Raw and SmackDown, even in this time period, but the mod maker made it so that Lesnar's contract, he couldn't even wrestle, which is kind of bullshit. So we're still going to have that match, but I can't actually run it, so we're just going to have to pretend. This will be the last time I do this. I'm just not going to be able to book Brock Lesnar in a weekly show match for a year and 8 months. So this is going to be the only time where a match is quote-unquote taking place that doesn't take place. So yeah, in a minute, Brock Lesnar beats Heath Slater. And that's how we do our version of I don't give a shit about your kids, which is practically the same thing. After that 1-minute match, we are faded to backstage where Sheamus is kicking the shit out of Hideo Itami. Sheamus clearly jumped him with a lead pipe of some sorts. Sheamus is furious. He's claiming Hideo Itami cost him the triple threat. He just cost him the Battle Royal match. Hideo Itami has cost Sheamus everything since Hideo Itami was drafted to Raw. Sheamus was pulled back by security as Hideo Itami was taken to the medic. Big Show is in Stephanie's office wondering where all of them went. He then gets a phone call from Steph. We can't hear what Stephanie's saying, but what we can hear is Big Show saying something along the lines of, "Don't worry, Cesaro isn't leaving tonight as number one contender." He tries to leave, but once he opens the door, on the other side, it is Randy Orton. Orton ambushes Show and nails him with an RKO as we transition to the entrances for the triple threat match. Even though Shane McMahon might have forgotten about Big Show, Randy Orton did not. And as we're fading back to TEW, you can see I might have accidentally put Big E in this spot. It's gonna happen sometimes. It's Big Show and Big E have such close names that sometimes I'm gonna be putting Big E in for Big Show and Big Show in for Big E. But it is now time for the triple threat match, and after a valiant effort from the Dark Horse Kevin Owens, but let's be real, Kevin Owens doesn't really have any storyline reason to win this match, so Kevin Owens does not win the match. However, between the two men of Cesaro and Chris Jericho was waiting for the Big Show. He was waiting and waiting. He was saving all of his energy, waiting for the Big Show, and the match ends when Chris Jericho looks up for the ramp. Still no Big Show. Kevin Owens runs in. He tries to, pounce Chris Jericho against the ropes. Chris Jericho moves out of the way. Kevin Owens goes flying out of the ring. Cesaro hits a very European uppercut, followed by the neutralizer and the Swiss superhero. Cesaro makes Chris Jericho tap out with the sharpshooter after 21 minutes and 7 seconds. Cesaro will be going on to SummerSlam to fight for the Universal Championship. For the first time in Cesaro's career, he will be getting a world title match against a tough competitor. Actually, not just against a tough competitor, but at all. This will be Cesaro's first ever world championship match in the WWE. And Cesaro, he's beginning to celebrate. But before Cesaro can celebrate too much, Roman Reigns' music hits. Now, some of you might have forgot that Roman Reigns was going to make his first appearance since his suspension, or since he was quote-unquote ran over. So Roman enters the ring, and instead of being mean about it, Cesaro, he understands all Roman probably had to go through, so he lets Roman Reigns have the floor. Roman has a microphone in hand and begins to speak. He says, "As you all know, the reason I have been out of action for the past month or so is because I was run over Stone Cold Steve Austin style. But there are two differences to my collision and Austin's. First is, I wasn't hit nearly as bad as Austin was. So even though Austin was on the shelf for about a year, I'm back already. But the other difference, and this is the real main difference, the second difference is that I know the man who attacked me. Right before I was hit, I could see the driver's face right before the crash." But before Roman can say who the name of the driver was, Roman was assaulted by a very large man wearing something reminiscent of the masked man from the Chris Jericho Road to WrestleMania in the game SmackDown vs. Raw 2009. However, we are not going to have to wait till next week before we find out the identity of this mystery man, because this very large masked man then unmasks, and he reveals himself to be Samoa Joe. Once the reveal and huge pop occurs, Joe puts Roman Reigns in the coquina clutch as we fade to black and end this episode of Monday Night Raw. A nice 87 here. I hope you guys really wanted Cesaro to win that match, and take on Seth Rollins. I feel that match would be fucking insane in the real world, and it probably would be insane in TEW as well. I feel that Cesaro versus Seth Rollins can be the next best thing because I can't really do Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins. Not because he's on SmackDown, but even if he was on Raw, in TEW, if you're not really over, you can't really be fighting for a title match. So, because I'd have to make Finn Balor lose at that point. I don't think there's any circumstance where Finn Balor should have lost that match. And I also feel that Seth Rollins versus Cesaro kind of gives a little more question as to who's going to win. Like, Seth Rollins and Cesaro, really either man could win. But before I ramble on for too long, that'll be it for this episode of Monday Night Raw. I hope to see you next week for this episode of Raw, but I hope to see you for the next episode of SmackDown. SmackDown, I feel the stories are much better on SmackDown, so if you're only watching Raws and you're not watching SmackDowns, I really suggest you watch SmackDowns, as well as you watch the Cruiserweight Classic. You know what? Just watch every single video on my channel. Yeah, that's a great way to close it. But I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope to see you for the next episode of the brand split from day one.